I hope you're well and doing great on this Monday. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. Quite a headline we have over here. What are you talking about? Markets on edge. Guys, risk is roaring here, right? Roaring today. We're seeing gold and silver. Bitcoin, nice day. Bitcoin up 1.5%. Love to see it. Bitcoin coming in and testing what would be upper resistance to what could lead to a breakout over there. We saw, and if you remember, last week I mentioned a couple of times, I believe once we see our swing trading begin kicking off on the sell side, that could be where we bottomed. You can see that Bitcoin over there on our swing trading template, entering on the short side and then eating it over there, full stop loss. And strangely enough, that might have been what was the bottom, but that was per our expectations of what could develop. Nevertheless, it's a mechanical system. You follow it and make sure you stay on the right side. Bitcoin bull runs back into the market now, and that just means, hey, listen, guys, the win ratio here is the lowest out of anything that we do. It is 20%. It is extremely low. The risk to win ratio, however, is extremely great. Right? What is it? 400 to 1 over there. Average winning trade 327. Sorry, that's what's going on, everyone. Good to be here with you all as we settle in to what is going to be a blockbuster week. A lot of people might be looking at what is going to be happening with the jobs market, except we might not find out. On Friday, non-farm payroll, government expected to be shut down. And if so, there will be no data. We're looking at roughly 1 to 150 risk to reward with only a 20% win ratio. Nevertheless, that's what it is. So what I'm getting at here is, yeah, from a discretionary standpoint, we have to break out above here to have any even like probability of going back and testing towards the highs and maybe even hitting a new all-time high. And I wonder how Bitcoin reacts if the government shut down. Is that going to be favorable for the US dollar? Likely not. Is that going to be favorable for potentially gold? It appears that gold's already way ahead of it. Once it comes to a resolution, might that be the time that we finally see gold breathe? Gold, remember the last time it entered into some type of consolidation, it was big. Like I was hoping we would get back down towards the whole number, $3,000. It never happened. Instead, it was a consolidation. We talk about consolidating underneath resistance and how bullish it is. That's exactly what happened over here with gold before making the last mega and a highly accelerated breakout. A lot of people saying right now, gold, U.S. holdings valuing $1 trillion is now going to be the time that the U.S. Treasury revalues the gold. Guys, there is very clearly a real-time revaluation happening before our eyes. Is gold stopping here at 3,800? If it does, what type of pullback will we see? Is gold going to 5,000? Is gold stopping at 5,000? You're beginning to see a lot of people coming to the realization that there's I've seen some reasonable time frames over the next 10 years. Within the next 10 years, you're going to be seeing things like $13,000, $15,000 gold. What are we going to see when it comes to the corn? A lot of people worried, what's going on with the corn? How is it possible that gold since January of 2025 is outperforming Bitcoin? Well, guys, you can see that the 45 days before that, Bitcoin was up 50%. yeah, a lot of people look to the calendar, look to January 1st, and talk about year to date, what assets are outperforming. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's everything right with that, except that's just one vantage point. You could use the election as another. The election was a pretty pivotal point in what has happened. Why? Because, had the Trump administration lost the election and you had the Biden, Obama, Kamala administration in that was not a pun, but that was intended. If you would have had all of that taking place, obviously that was not favorable. That was anti Bitcoin, anti crypto. You saw it through the SEC, who after Trump was elected went ahead and stepped down. Gonzo, and that was a pivotal moment. Bitcoin was up 50% since there. Maybe off the April lows is another good point. Which horse is actually outperforming off of the April lows? I would like to see that. Do we have a easy gold and silver? Not there. I know we're gonna find it. Markets. What did I say? Markets under turmoil. Markets on edge. They're probably not yet, but they should be. This is a nice on the Nasdaq, a nice breakout. On Friday, we were able to go ahead. It was a pretty choppy day, pretty volatile day, but come into what was the launch of that breakout. Ever since Asia opening yesterday, it's been a nice move up. But guys, people, traders, markets are forward looking. This might be a good place, even though our CTM stocks are feeling the love. Might be a place that people are going to be looking to distribute into ahead of this week's events. Nevertheless, we do have Nvidia pending long tomorrow. Assuming, because we still got many hours left here, and we don't know by the end of today's session whether or not this signal is going to still be pending or not. If it is confirmed at the close, that means tomorrow morning there's an entry Nvidia extremely tight stop, right? It is what it is. Spotty ETFs, IBIT for me, getting ready here to also potentially be pending long. And we know that FNGU, TQQQ, and led by Tesla, continue to really hold on to some surprise positions. When I say surprised, it's a surprise for me because I thought coming into this period that we would be seeing any entries that were taken. I thought, fast forward into mid-August, I thought by this time in September we were trading lower. We're trading significantly higher. Like, and the question is, what's going on here? Like, we know that it's not just through the end of September post-election year, it's through the end of October. Very weak seasonalities, and the markets, they just keep defying gravity. Is that indicative of a incredibly strong market? Is that like no big deal? Like we're gonna see, and is it gonna be triggered this week potentially by the government shutting down? We're gonna see seasonalities just wind up reverting down towards the mean, or is this as I see across my feed, warning signs galore and doom galore that you know is this just an incredibly strong market? My inkling here, and it was wrong. It was wrong over here in the middle of August. I thought that any entries we take, we're just going to get chopped out. I was just prepared for the worst. For the next 60 days, just any entries we take, we're going to, but instead, hopefully, TQQQ, FNGU could close at some small gains or even more so than that and not a loss. And Tesla certainly looks like it's got a lot of profit built in over there. And that's a testimony right there of knowing when to be in the market and when out and what side. And that's why having a plan and not just what you believe. But my intuition here tells me that this week could trigger a bit of a bit of a mean reversion over here. Could we get to a point over here where we are testing and or breaking the green line, which would be the first breakdown. Could we take out even maybe the August July lows? I would not be surprised at all. I guess that's what I'm seeing the potential here for. We'll find out whether or not indeed we have this incredibly strong market that's defying everything, or actually markets right now are just setting up for a nice, beautiful mean reversion. And not only that, Atlanta Fed looking ahead right now at 3.8% GDP. My expectations just, and I'm not, no one's confused over here, and it's a lot different from the majority of market participants. Now, when we talk about Bitcoin, it seems that a lot of people have fallen in line. You know, it's bananas how people would even consider listening to those who just whatever. But it seems that a lot of people are coming to the conclusion that we're not going to see any 4-year cycle similarities and rhymings, that the 4-year cycle's dead. A lot of people saying, as I said, people are going to say, all right, it's going to be the quarter one. It looks like people are pushing that out, and they're like now like 2026. Listen, for real, it is nothing to do with the 4-year global refinancing cycle being pushed out to 5 years. It's shorter term duration that's being rolled over. That's just bananas to even think that that's anything like that the case. No question about it, though. A lot of people are beginning to move and adjust and say, oh, market looks very sustainable here. Everything on chain, like 2026. Guys, the cycle peak is going to be closer to 2008 than 2024. We've said that ever since people started thinking this was going to be a left translated cycle. The business cycle, we got PMIs this week. A lot of people looking at the jobs number. I'm looking at the PMIs over here. I'm hoping to see some increases and further just momentum gaining, that we are getting ready for an acceleration. And I think that you're going to see that type of narrative come into the market. I don't know, in the future. I don't know if it's 3 months from now. I don't know if it's 6 months from now. But I think we're working towards, as we muddle along, and we're going to be then moving towards a lot of people saying, you know what, it's reaccelerating here. No, there's not a recession on the horizon. There is no doubt, and don't get confused. The divide between the bottom portion of the economy and the population and the top, that continues to grow, and it's getting more obvious to everyone. There are a lot of people obviously feeling the pain out there. That is very real. That's close to the heart. We have to be very, very aware. But we're talking about markets, and we're talking about economics here. So we got to make sure that we are very, very clear. Silver and gold doing their thing. There's no doubt about it. That slow motion repricing is definitely and clearly taking effect. People wondering, where is Bitcoin? And again, I don't know where to start. I'm zooming down a little bit. Bitcoin so far structurally looking very good since, I'm trying to find January 2024. And look at that. From January 2024, that was just after another 50% gain. Those are the seasonalities that are going to come into play this November, December. I don't know. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. Again, we got to work through this week. This week, it would be nice to have that very important jobs data. Doesn't look like we're going to get it on Friday. Nevertheless, we got JOLTS tomorrow. We got ADP Wednesday. I hopefully my dates I'm giving you here are exactly on point. Right? ADP on Wednesday, JOLTS tomorrow, 100%. And then on Friday, are we going to get the services PMI? Where is my manufacturing? Wednesday, I'm watching the PMIs. I hope that they are moving in that creeping direction that I'm looking for, and that we are indeed going to be seeing all signs, as Fed continues to cut, that we are monetary policy, that last factor that was getting in the way of them being able to push forward, comes in line. Platinum The U.S. government talking about taking positions in a bunch of. It started with Intel, right? Now they're moving over towards the minerals. Are they eventually moving over for the corn? Is Saylor right now doing the stealth lifting? Ooh, fun times ahead. Um, Wait, let's take a look over here. What's going on with our positioning? First, before we do that, Bitcoin here. Again, I guess I was trying to set the stage. We have Bitcoin bull runs entering, but that's a very low probability trade, 20%. It doesn't mean much at this particular point. From a discretionary view, we got some resistance coming into us. I wonder what's going to happen here if the markets do actually, you know, get a little bit jolted. And like, because it's a US government shutdown, are we going to see gold continuing here? It's just mega. What did we call it? A super cycle? Are we going to see that massive, strong strength continuing? Or and are we also going to see that expressed through Bitcoin as well? I hope so. I hope that's exactly what we see. I'm not so sure that US equities are going to participate. And actually, I think that there's a good chance they become under pressure. Um, no, John. No, there's no way that CTM is CTM without honeymoon, setting the tone, setting the stage. You'll understand it one day. You could just fast forward. There's no need to have to be here to listen to that whatsoever at all. You know, listen, we're here to filter out as much as we can for good reason. That provides a good job. If you know, you know. But anyway, John, I'm glad you're here. It's good that you're here. There's a high probability that the government will shut down. I haven't checked. I believe Polymarkets puts it at greater than 70%. I think that the president met either Saturday or Sunday with some lawmakers, last ditch efforts, but likely that's what happens. Now there's talk. It's just talk that because we don't don't trust and verify that. Instead of normally what happens is normally that when the government shuts down, that government workers get furloughed, right? Non-essential government employees get furloughed, and then when they come back to work, they get paid. It's like very government-esque, right? Like we're just like go home, take a vacation. When you come back, we'll pay you for that time, and just a complete absolute waste of money, right? And what this time though that what's being said is any employees that are furloughed or they're not coming back, like they're not. And could that be is that maybe a tactic that would be welcomed by the current administration, who's looking to cut a lot of that fat? They're obviously offering nice packages to people who would just step down themselves. Maybe I wonder if that is maybe something that is desired. Now obviously it's not this time the Republicans who are stopping the spending, but it is I think they need 7 Democrats to go ahead and pass the stopgap bill in order to be able to fund the government. Absolutely ridiculous. It's all a banana republic. But I think the probability is high. It's a question of how long is the government shut down. I believe the longest it was gone is I think it's 35 days. Also under Trump, and it wouldn't be a surprise whatsoever if the government shut down. It's more of a question of how long, and if the employees that were actually furloughed, whether or not they're cut loose. It's not really their fault that these lawmakers are playing these games and whatever. Now, there's a bunch of money in the TGA. So the government, and by the way, we also know you could see the upcoming issuances in the next few days prior to the shutdown are pretty heavy. From what we saw, it was August was the heaviest, and then September, and in October there was like nothing on the calendar. It was extremely light, and as you know, the Treasury General Account is back towards $800 billion. They have plenty of cash in there to ride out whatever nonsense takes place. It's nonsense, but it's kind of like eventually all that nonsense begins to add up, and people are just like, you know, you have to wonder if foreign investors are going to, you know, eventually get fed up. And is that the case for Bitcoin and gold, or I should say gold and Bitcoin? Um, anyway, here we are. Here we are, and nevertheless, we still continue to be, regardless of. I feel like this might be. You see, I got the bears up behind me. That's quite ambitious of me, but yeah, it feels like this is potential morning of distribution. Doesn't matter what I think. Not only are we holding 3 open positions when it comes to stocks, we also have on deck IBIT and Nvidia. Bitcoin bull runs back into the market, and we are sidelined everywhere else across the board. I wanted to look and take a look over here, not just from a discretionary vantage point of what we need to overcome, and then, but also just checking this out with you. I was just moving around some lines here this morning, and I'm going to remove this really quick. And this is like the sustainable channel that we have. I unfortunately, or I should say fortunately or unfortunately, it doesn't really matter. BLX was just what I've always used, and it's beautiful. I love it. And now they're no longer updating. And because of that, I've had to move over to TradingView All-Time Index, which is preferred anyway. I'd rather be here. And I'll have to go back on the thing. And this is our sustainable channel, right? This is the Bitcoin bull market breakout, retested back in September 2023. And, you know, again, whether or not we eventually break down or break out, either way should have an accelerated move. If you break down, that's more than likely setting up what would be a capitulation and a good buying opportunity. If you break out to the upside and outside of an adoption event, it's likely leading to accelerated price. That's going to lead to a mean reversion where we'll have a deeper drawdown, deeper than that 30%. That's what I believe. Now, until we break out or break down, we're in what I call the sustainable channel. Now, of course, something like a recession would be a major obstacle for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not immune to anything like that whatsoever. Looking ahead, does it look like that we're headed towards a recession? Look, again, Polymarket probably has a decent. What is Polymarket odds for a recession in 2026? I would imagine it's probably close to 25-30%. Right now, GDP, obviously, we just came off of a hot quarter. Looking ahead, it looks like it's going to be another really hot quarter. And guess what? When I talk about acceleration ahead, they're going to do everything in their power to run this thing hot, like really hot. And we got a lot of fugaziness between Oracle, OpenAI, and Nvidia taking place, but we got a lot of behemoths in the room, right? Alphabet, Microsoft, Meta, and these guys are have bank, are making bank, and they are spending bank, and it's very real. So I was looking at our sustainable channel, and then I noticed that let me just come back and get back over here. A different structure is potentially taking place over here. So sustainable channel, guys, is like this. And now I see, and you can see it very clearly since 2024, you see those 2 touches, right? And then we have 2 touches up over here. It's a parallel channel. What's interesting about this is Bitcoin has never done anything like that. I'll explain to you in 1 second. Very real. Bitcoin has never done anything like that before. Now, also what I want to do is add one more line over here. I just have to draw it in. And I'm just taking this line. I'm just following the path of that parallel channel. And I was just checking off that last touch over there. And we've had 1-2 test of it. So it's like riding a little bit higher, neither here nor there. When I say Bitcoin has never done anything like that before, what I mean is that, you know, Bitcoin here 2005, 2006, it's at like X angle, and then it it moves up further and then accelerates the fastest, right? You see that also over here. It's at this angle. It ends then towards another one. This one didn't go to a third. It just stayed in that angle, right? And in this case, Bitcoin is kind of cooling off a little bit, right? In so much as that what you would expect in a bull market, or I would expect in a bull market, is one angle and then an accelerated angle of ascent to the upwards. And depending on where it goes from there, either a final third or a breakdown. And it seems like Bitcoin here is just completely I don't say cooling off is the right way, but just continuing here in a very nice accumulation pocket. An accumulation pocket also is something like this. Let me just jump back over here. And this is that mega long accumulation pocket from 2015, 2016 that led towards the massive bull market of 2017. Look at that over there, 800 days. And if you look at this one over here, the length of it, the magnitude is now a year longer. It's already a year longer. It doesn't show signs of stopping. Is there going to be some type of Bitcoin adoption event, or is that happening much like gold in real time? Oh, that's Cabby. I don't know. Because you're including stocks versus Bitcoin over here. And I think that separating them makes the most sense. No, along those lines though, I've been wondering in my mind though, if any type of buy side boost-esque money management would ultimately and could ultimately be extremely fruitful within the stocks. I don't know that Cabby, listen, this is probably one of the most important things. Like, I made this mistake in 2023 with Ethereum. Ethereum had been, like, when it came to Bitcoin and crypto, the highest performer by a wild margin. And I was heavily allocated towards trading Ethereum in 2023. The thing is, and Fisher King did extraordinary work here on what is the longest thread inside the Discord, and it talks about allocation. And the thing is that you can't use like recency bias and past performance to kind of allocate going forward. The best allocation is, if you're talking Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and Solana, is 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. You never know which over the next 6, 12 months is going to outperform other. Think about it too. With Ethereum, it was lagging into 2025 performance. And then in 2025, it's leading. Same thing with stocks. You don't know which one is going to outperform. What you're looking to do is say, okay, over the next 10 years, I'm going to go ahead and do some extraordinary things. And you want to do that by taking the most, let's say, probable path to get there. And that is not looking for shortcuts, but just methodically executing. Yeah, or you could just go with Hunter, who could just answer that in 8 words. Each has their runs. Knowing the seasonality is hard, and that's the truth of it. So and potentially it's a little harder. I'm not going to even go into those thoughts. I was going to talk about potentially like around the Fed cycle, when they begin a tightening cycle. This is probably more conducive to Bitcoin until they turn towards easing. But we do live in a different situation where we're looking at fiscal dominance playing a greater and greater role right now. And ultimately how that all plays in remains to be seen. So I was just, thought about that and then was like, the best way is the most consistent, right? The most consistent, maybe not the most sexy, but certainly the most consistent way to go. So here we are for Monday, kicking off the week and leaning into, above all, our positioning. Whether or not I was preemptive here pulling at the bears. Is this going to be the correction that didn't happen in September? And are we now setting up what would be more of a period into the end of October of mean reversion? We'll find out. We'll find out whether or not we'll find out. I don't know. Everyone, on this beautiful day, though, we're going to cut this short, keep it light and sweet, get ready for a big week, and navigate it. Everyone, have a beautiful day. God bless you. I'll see you all back on the inside.